Okay, well, here we are on this beautiful Friday afternoon on June 5th, and we want to welcome everybody to the Pennsylvania Abandoned Mine Reclamation Chronicles. Uh, I'm your host, Bobby Hughes, Executive Director for the Eastern Pennsylvania Coalition for Abandoned Mine Reclamation, along with my co-host, Ann David, from the Western Pennsylvania Coalition for Abandoned Mine Reclamation. And we have our guest here, Kristin Reilly, who's the Director for the Choose Clean Water Coalition. But first, here I want to give you a quick introduction to the Abandoned Mine Reclamation Chronicles. We think it's a one-of-a-kind podcast that converses with passionate, community-minded partners and highlights outstanding reclamation and community cleanup projects. We showcase stream improvement successes and share different emergent ideas and technologies, not only to reclaim and remediate our legacy abandoned mines, but also just to improve clean water. And in this case today, we're talking about the clean water within the Chesapeake Bay, which is a very large area of coverage by both EPCAMR and Western Pennsylvania Coalition for Abandoned Mine Reclamation on the west branch of the Susquehanna River that drains to the Chesapeake Bay. So again, I'm your host here. We want to welcome Kristin to the show for this afternoon, and let Ann take it away here.
Yeah, so thanks, Bobby. And first and foremost, we have to say thank you to the Foundation for Pennsylvania Watersheds, who is underwriting the first 12 episodes of the Abandoned Mine Reclamation Chronicles podcast. We're in our 11th episode today, so made it almost a full year. And the first 11 episodes, including today after it airs, are all archived on our YouTube channels, both the WhipCamera and EPCamera YouTube channels. And so we're hopeful that this live streaming format that we're doing has of personal interviews and discussing timely topics related to abandoned mine reclamation can engage our audience at a whole new level. So we encourage anyone who is joining us on our YouTube channels or on EPCamera's Facebook channels to go ahead and put your questions and comments and any of your discussion topics that you want Kristin Reilly to address, put them right into the comments box of wherever you're joining us from, and we'll be able to address them live. So that's kind of fun. And Kristin, did you share a link with us to put it on your Facebook or YouTube channel or anything?
Yes, I think it is live on our Facebook right now.
Great. So yeah, you can also put your comments there. So that'll be great. All right, thanks. And now we'll switch back over to Bobby and get a nice bio from Kristin.
Sure. Yeah. Let me give you a little background on my dear friend Kristin here. So Kristin Reilly has strategically been advancing the Choose Clean Water Coalition's work to restore and protect the local rivers and streams all around the Chesapeake Bay by leading the coordination efforts of, I think, more than 320. And that number may have risen to over 350. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but these are groups that are working all across the watershed. And they're working to create like a collective voice for the watershed. And Kristin really has helped to build that effort and the communications and advocacy work and capacity building for many of our coalition members, including ourselves, to create positive change within the watershed. And she joined the Choose Clean Water Coalition back in 2016. And she was previously serving as the coalition's communication director. And I know I go all the way back to when she first started. And I'm really glad to see that she's taking the helm here. But everybody that's been involved with the Choose Clean Water Coalition has just been great to work with over the years. And she comes to the coalition from Oceana, where she worked on their digital communications, advocacy, and marketing strategy. And she also worked for the Chesapeake Bay Trust, focusing her time on development, outreach, marketing initiatives, in-house design, and managing social media outlets. And if you know anything about the Chesapeake Bay Trust, I mean, they have an open grant round right now that lots of folks are probably looking to get involved and make some proposals to, including ourselves. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed there, but great partners to work and have in the Bay. And Kristin earned her master's degree in public communications from American University in 2013, and she's focused her studies on social marketing and behavior changes. And she received her bachelor's in geography and political science from Miami University with a focus on environmental studies. So, welcome, Kristin.
Thank you. Man.
Yeah.
Sounds good when somebody else tells you about it.
Right? I don't know if it's really that impressive, but
Yeah, certainly impressive. And we have a kind of full hour's worth of questions and things to talk to you about. Just really curious about a lot of things. What's the Clean Water Coalition? What projects are they into? All kinds of stuff. But we like to kind of get started by first kind of getting to know our guests on a more personal level. That's kind of what the Pennsylvania Abandoned Mine Reclamation community is all about. Just really being good partners and, making real friendships with the people that we work with. So we would like to ask you just kind of, where did you grow up? Do you have any connection to mining or, just kind of what your background is and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I grew up in Maryland. I am a true Marylander. Been here my whole life, save for those 4 years that I spent in Ohio at college. So yeah, I mean, and I don't think I ever had any plan to just to stay in Maryland like that, but just kind of worked out that way. I live in Annapolis, Maryland right now. So I actually grew up north of DC in Montgomery County, for folks who are familiar with the area. Made my way down to Annapolis after graduation for my first job out of college and been here ever since. I have my 2 lovely kids that are here with me and my husband. But yeah, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old that keep me very busy. That love to be outside, love the outdoors, growing that next generation of environmentalists within the house. And yeah, but I don't have any personal connections with mining or abandoned mine reclamation, but I do have pretty deep roots in Pennsylvania. My dad's family is from Butler County, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
North of Pittsburgh. So I can actually find a road in Butler County that is named after my maiden name, where their farm was. They were very, I think it was the late 1700s. I came from Germany over and we're farmers. And yeah, so my dad's side of the family is from a lot of that part of Pennsylvania, but then slowly made their way over into the Chesapeake Watershed, living in Camp Hill area. So I haven't made my way up there yet. I have these big dreams about going up and seeing that road sign with my maiden name on it. And I haven't done it yet, but one day I'd like to go up and just kind of see where my ancestors were from. So
That's super cool. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. So
there you go.
Yeah. And I'm from just next to Butler County. So if you want me to go take a picture of that street or road sometime, I'll go do it.
Yeah. All I know is Sugar Creek Township is, I think,
okay,
is another part of it too, though more specifically where they were. But yes.
I know where Sugar Creek Township is. Okay, cool. Excellent.
Dan, is that a part of the Slippery Rock watershed, or is it no?
It could be. I'd have to, see exactly. It's probably Buffalo Creek, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's out of the watershed, you're saying? That probably drains to the Ohio.
Might be the Ohio.
Yes, it'd be the Ohio.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's cool. That's really so you do got some roots, and you have lots of friends up here, so there
I
is some
do,
personal
yes.
connections. I know when I try to come on the scene, it's like, who's this guy talking about orange water all the time? But he's making his way into the community with everybody, and making lots of friends. So it's always good to keep everybody informed about the kind of work that's going on in the headwaters of the Chesapeake Bay. And you've really opened the doors for us to do that over the course of the time you've been in your leadership position. So we kind of thank you for that.
Mhm.
We're going to ask you a little bit about your education, just in terms of your career thus far. Like, how did you end up at Choose Clean Water? Like, we always try and figure out, where people find themselves, and how do you get themselves at a place where I think I can make a difference here, or this is where I want to be. When did you decide that? And did you know that from either, I say, high school or college, but
Yeah.
what was your pivot point to get you into this field where you took what your knowledge was that you gained from college and wanted to put it to use? When did that happen?
Yeah, so I mean, I think pretty early on, like I was a stereotypical 90s kid outside running around barefoot all the time, collecting toads, saving them from the window wells. So I think I just like had a very strong affinity for the outdoors and the environment from a young age. I had the, privilege of being able to just run around outside like that. And so I think there's always been part of me that wanted to do something on the environment. And did a little bit of stuff in high school. I had in my science class, my sophomore year of high school, we had the option of either writing a paper or doing a science fair project, and I think I was the only one that opted for the science fair project.
Oh.
And so I started my sophomore year doing it was stream monitoring at a very basic level, that essentially moved up from just like visual monitoring to biological monitoring, looking for macroinvertebrates my junior year. And then my senior year, ultimately doing some chemical testing. It was downstream from a wastewater treatment facility, and ended up competing countywide in my home county in the science fair. So I don't really even I ended up there. I just didn't want to write a paper, so I ended up there. But yeah, it's like again, like I just think I always had some kind of affinity for it. And then I went to Miami University in Ohio, which I think puzzled a lot of my family. I was interested in political science. I really was interested in maybe going into the government, working for EPA or something like that. And my parents are like, you grew up outside of DC. Why are you going to Ohio to learn about it all worked out. But yeah, no, I studied for 4 years at Miami University, not to be confused with University of Miami in Florida. They're different schools. And then ended up coming back. And again, very passionate about the environment, wanting to, work potentially for a government agency. And so I felt like I got my dream job. A few months after graduating, working at the EPA Chesapeake Bay program office in Annapolis. I was a staffer through like a young professional sort of career development program. And I probably about 7 or 8 months in was like, I don't want to do this. I am sitting in 6-hour meetings where nothing is really happening. I don't see, decisions being made. And maybe it was just that need for more, maybe not instant gratification, but just some tangible things I could really hold on to as a proof of my work. And so I quickly started getting involved in communications efforts at the Bay program, really loving that because I could see sort of the results of what I was doing. When you do communications and marketing, you can kind of see how that impacts people, who you're talking to, how you're educating people. And so it just scratched an itch for me, and I, completely shifted what I wanted to do. Ended up at the trust, as Bobby mentioned, doing communications and marketing. Same thing with Oceana. When I came to the Choose Clean Water Coalition, I was also doing communications. I wasn't the coalition director. I don't ever think I thought I would be the director of a coalition, of a nonprofit. I don't think that ever came to mind when I was thinking about my career. So it certainly has not been linear. But I think it's good. Everything that I've done and every experience that I've had, I think has led me to this point, but also has helped shape who I am as a leader. And I think a lot of the work that I do in my role is the coalition director isn't just policy, but it's how you're communicating that policy. How are we talking about it? Who is talking about it? The best messenger. How are we conveying that message and the importance of it in a way that gathers, support from a variety of different audiences. So I feel like all of that experience has really framed, my work and how we do our work with the coalition. So yeah, long story short, you never know where you're going to end up. To ride, and I just kind of went on it and made certain turns here and there that I felt were right, and yeah, that's how I got here.
Yeah, that's very cool. It is it's interesting how much of an executive director's position for a nonprofit is that communications and marketing place. But as we'll probably learn further in the rest of the conversation, it's also a lot more, and probably was a pretty big learning curve with all the other things you have to deal with, especially managing grants and stuff. That's, yeah, it's a lot.
Yes.
So let's dive into, you came to Choose Clean Water Coalition at a really interesting time. And you guys are really, really growing right now. So let's talk some about Choose Clean Water Coalition. What's your mission? Who do you serve? What are your key areas of focus? And maybe even dive into some of your current projects.
Yeah. So the Choose Clean Water Coalition has been around since 2009. We were formed sort of in response to two major events for the Chesapeake. Number one being there was a lawsuit that was filed over the restoration effort, which ultimately resulted in the creation of the total maximum daily load, the TMDL, for the Chesapeake Bay. So that was being crafted. And then at the same time, President Obama at the time had issued an executive order calling the Chesapeake Bay a national treasure and directing the federal agencies to be better coordinated on their restoration work. So with all this renewed energy and attention sort of being poured into the Chesapeake, it was decided that we really needed to lean into this and sort of get coordinated as a community. We didn't want, only the larger NGOs to be leading the conversation. We wanted to recognize there are a lot of local groups, groups like yours that are working, far away from the Bay, that are having an impact down in the Chesapeake Bay itself, but also obviously for all the rivers and streams that flow into it. And really wanting to make sure that we're kind of coordinated and singing from the same song sheet, right? We're stronger. We believe that we're stronger together. And so being able to sort of bring that all into one place and have someone that's sort of coordinating that, especially when it came to federal advocacy work. So we also knew with this renewed attention that we were going to need more resources for not just the state and federal agencies, but also for the folks on the ground that are doing the work, right? And so there was an interest in trying to coordinate that advocacy effort because a lot of our coalition members, and Bobby, you were right, we're at like just over 320 NGOs from across the entire Chesapeake watershed. That is like a lot of those groups don't normally engage, don't know how to engage with members of Congress, right? They either don't have the capacity, the time, experience, or are comfortable with it. And so we're able to sort of provide that connection and take the work that's happening locally, regionally at the state level, and connect it to the broader, federal work that are the federal needs that we need. And so, yeah, that's really been sort of like our the key to our success is really harnessing this collective power and being able to use that to advocate for the resources that we need, but also to hold state and federal agencies accountable to their goals towards the restored bay, but also all of the rivers and streams in the watershed. So we have a couple of like specific areas of focus that we dive into. We call them our policy priorities. That includes clean water, which is very broad, but anything from toxics to fisheries work. We've talked about in that group, tracking the TMDL. We also focus on stormwater, agriculture, equity, land use, which also focuses on energy and energy extraction and how that impacts our land and water. So those are kind of the areas that we try to focus on the most. But then there's always like new things that come up. Our work is always changing and evolving, and so we try to be as responsive as we can to our coalition members and the challenges and the needs that they identify. For instance, data centers is a new big thing for us now, working on that through our land use work group, something that our Virginia members have been raising the alarm about for a while. And now, more broadly throughout our coalition, we're hearing that there needs to be some more conversations around data centers within our work. So yeah. And so currently right now, we've kind of come through our like formal lobbying season on a federal appropriations work. We're sort of tracking what's coming out right now. We were somewhat pleased with the appropriations bill that we're seeing coming out of the House right now. Everything that we've asked for is in there for the most part. I know, and we might talk about this later, but I know that there were some disappointments on acid mine drainage work in the previously passed bill that we're working to try to address. And I don't think this bill has addressed those fully, but yeah, so sort of just tracking how those bills are moving through Congress right now, making sure that we're getting as much funding as we can for the work that's going on the ground.
Yeah, there's definitely been just a lot of work happening, and there are groups out there that just they're trying to help wherever they can, and for a lot of groups that just don't have the ability to kind of knock on the doors of the Capitol and get to those areas unless they're able to reach out maybe at their district offices when some of the legislators are back home. But to get down there is kind of a challenge for many groups, and knowing that you all are down there and a lot closer to those folks inside the Beltway, it makes it really easier for us, and that communication line that's open and the opportunities to bring some of us down there when we're up on the Hill to really educate both staffers and or legislators that some have been there a long time and some are just turnover, and if it's not the legislators, it's the staffers, and there's always a learning curve, it seems, every year that we got to come down there. And when we look at the acts and the successes of the different programs in meeting with those folks, you all have done a really good job on putting that sort of package and the approach to the sound bites, and also the narrowing down of what we're going to be talking about during those meetings on the Hill. I think that's been a tremendous asset for all of the groups across the Bay, and not every issue is going to go forward in ways that we all would like to see, but we keep trying, and as long as we're making the case to show them that they got to remember who their constituents are from around the Bay, who got them into office in the first place, that talking about the successes of the programs and the need for those funds are really what everybody's been all about in the name of clean water throughout the Chesapeake Bay, and for that matter any other watershed that's coming through our states, and needs some sort of efforts for cleanup, protection, or conservation for that matter. So we want to thank you for that. We're kind of wanting to know, like, you guys have a sort of a work group approach to managing your member organizations and for the priorities of the coalition. Can you kind of just like broadly, speak about how that works, because it works pretty well. And I know there's a lot of work groups, and maybe you could give people an idea of what they are and where they're. Are there ways to get involved? Can they join? What would be the best way to have others around the watershed become interested and engaged if they were interested to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. So our coalition members are all NGOs, non-governmental organizations. They don't need to have a 501c3 status. They just can't be a for-profit or government entity. So if anyone is and working obviously on issues in Chesapeake Bay region that align with our priorities. So if anyone out there listening is in that bucket, we welcome you to join the coalition. And there's no dues or anything like that. There's really no hard and fast requirements to be a coalition member. We just ask that you participate in whatever way makes the most sense for your organization, especially when it comes to some of our sign-on letters and advocacy efforts on that front. And that's sometimes all some of our members do, right? They just they send our appropriations letters. They can't, make any of our calls or, physically come down to lobby day, but they support what we're doing. They send our letters, and that's great. And so it's a pretty low barrier for entry, hopefully for most people to come in. But we do provide a lot of benefits to the coalition or to coalition members. And so one, like I mentioned, those policy priorities that we have monthly calls around those different issues. We bring on really great guest speakers, experts, subject matter experts to come and speak on different topics. On that, our water quality call that we had this week, we had someone come on and talk about, from USGS, come on and talk about PFAS. So the PFAS research that they've been doing in the watershed, specifically around the Potomac. And then we had someone later in the call come on and talk about the Menhaden issue down in Virginia as well. So just a wide range of opportunities there. It's also an opportunity for coalition members to sort of raise issues that are happening in these policy priorities for potential action. So often we'll identify an issue that we would like to do a sign-on letter around or something like that. So it's a good opportunity for action as well, in addition to that knowledge sharing. So we also have state calls. So we have a standing monthly call for our Pennsylvania members to come on and talk all things Pennsylvania. It's a good opportunity to talk about things going on during session, and strategize around some of that as well. And I know Pennsylvania session is interesting because it's pretty much ongoing and never ends. So it's a constant update on what's happening at the State House, it feels like, for PA. But we have those standing calls. We also have an in-person meeting each year with our members from each state. So our state leads in each state, Penn Future is our state lead for Pennsylvania. They schedule an in-person opportunity for, again, knowledge sharing and connection with our coalition members, bring really great guest speakers in. I know we had ours in Pennsylvania in April with folks from DEP coming in and talking about the county action plan, the CAP work that's been going on. So just really, awesome opportunities there as well. And obviously we have our conference and Hill Day, which I think we'll talk about in a little bit. But we don't want to be a burden. We don't want to be, everyone has a lot of meetings. Everyone has a lot going on. We don't want to be like one more thing that people have to feel like they need to do. So, whatever way people are interested in sort of showing up, we provide a variety of different spaces for that, knowing that, a lot of our coalition members are out in the field doing work. They're not sitting behind a computer all day, writing emails like me. I don't know how I ended up, as I say, I'm an indoor cat, and I think I'd like to be an outdoor cat at some point. I long for the days of outdoor cat activities. But yeah, so we know that, that's a lot of the case, especially in the nice weather. We've got planting, it's got water quality monitoring, got all sorts of things happening with our coalition members. So we try to provide a variety of different ways for people to engage that are that sort of go along with what works for them.
That's great. Do you have a good representation of groups coming out of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we have a pretty strong number of coalition members in PA. They're all, very engaged, I would say, as well. We just had our conference in Pennsylvania, so that was really great. It was an opportunity to see a lot of them that we don't see all the time. I know that there are some groups out there, especially some local watershed groups that aren't coalition members yet. We'd love for them to join. And I would say, I think Pennsylvania probably has like a pretty wide diversity, I think, of the types of organizations. So, we're not just all water groups in the coalition. We do have groups that are highly focused on water quality, but we have, land conservation groups. We have environmental justice groups. We have, obviously, AMD groups. You have groups that are really kind of focused on everything. And the key is that everything, we all see how it all ties back to clean water. So yeah, we're always looking to increase our membership though. So yeah.
Yeah. And as you know, WIPCAMR and EPCAMR, obviously our missions are focused on abandoned mine reclamation. And a big part of that is the water issues. So that is also being from Pennsylvania with, that's our number. It fluctuates, but it's usually listed as our number one source of water degradation is abandoned mine drainage. So can you tell us a little bit about how you, what programs or policies you have around abandoned mine drainage?
Yeah. And I mean, I'd really credit you all, and certainly, especially Bobby being on our steering committee, with really elevating this issue within our coalition. I think it's not, I wouldn't say it's unique to Pennsylvania. I mean, how much of an impact it is definitely unique for our watershed in Pennsylvania. But I know that there are, parts of Virginia that also, I think, in other states in our watershed that are dealing with this. But I really do think that you all have elevated it for folks in a major way. And so, like I said before, like we try to respond and work on the issues that our coalition members care about. And so, one of the ways that we've in recent history tried to elevate this issue, last year, we were very adamant and supportive of having AMD target in the Chesapeake Bay Agreement. So the Chesapeake Bay Agreement is a document that is signed by the 7 bay jurisdictions in the watershed. So it's the 6 states and Washington, D.C., a representative from the Chesapeake Bay Commission that represents Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia delegates, and then EPA representing the entire federal family. So the Bay program's always operated under some version of this agreement, and that agreement was just updated. It was kind of not expiring, but the end date for those projects to be in place was 2025, and so it needed to be revised. So there were not a lot of additions that were made to the agreement. There were a lot of suggestions that we had that did not make it in there. And so we were really happy to see that AMD was called out. As you guys know, I mean, it's the largest source of impairment in Pennsylvania streams, right? I think it's over 3,000 miles of streams impaired by AMD, something like that. So not talking about it in the agreement would be odd. It would have been a huge glaring error on their part. And so we were very happy to see that it was suggested to be in there and that it remained in the final version of the agreement. So so that was something in more recent history. And then obviously I briefly mentioned this a second ago, but during the appropriations process last year that went into this year in January, the budget that passed unfortunately stripped a significant amount of money for AMD work, which it was flagged by I think Bobby and Foundation for Pennsylvania Watersheds for us. It hadn't even been in our mind that this would be something that would be taken out. So very odd. And so we were not expecting that at all. And we did not have a lot of time to try to push back on it either, because it happened so quickly and suddenly. So certainly trying to address that issue and get it back into where it was, at the very least. I don't think the language that just came out recently from the House is doing what we had hoped. So that'll still be something that's in the back of our mind as we continue to try to push this forward. But yeah, we understand like how great the need is, and that a lot of it comes down to the funding that's necessary for this remediation and the work that needs to be done. And so we're going to continue to prioritize that. And having it honestly in the Bay Agreement sort of helps with that, because it's a public commitment that's been made in this agreement around AMD. And so it's something that we can point to at the state and federal level to say, we need more resources in order to achieve this new target in the agreement.
Yeah, I think that you're right. We've in the last few years been trying to elevate the issue, because we thought it was missing, and there were components that could have been added in other states and jurisdictions within the Bay, although they may have a smaller number of stream miles and impairments. Regardless, the largest contributor of that pollution load, legacy pollution, is coming from Pennsylvania, and so we want to make sure that it's being addressed, and it's particularly when EPA and their clean water funding and non-point source funding and the Chesapeake Bay program itself, as it's run differently through each of the states, it's where a lot of the money comes through, to be able to put some of these projects on the ground, whether it's assessment, whether it's implementation, whether it's stream restoration, all land reclamation efforts, reforestation, anything that could really make improvements within the Bay watershed. It's been a long haul and a good ride, to kind of continue to keep those things elevated. And you've always provided that opportunity. So I don't think we could have done that without the coalition's support over the years. And that's by giving Ann and I opportunities to even come down and make presentations at the annual conference and, reach a lot larger of an audience that we normally would not be able to reach. So things like that are very, appreciated. And, the fact that we communicate pretty closely with you all, as being a member of the steering committee myself, I've just had a wonderful opportunity to continue to work with you guys over the last few years on the committee, addressing those issues, but kind of complementing the work that I'm doing on the Stakeholders Advisory Committee too, for becoming the Pennsylvania representative with John Dawes and Pat McDonald, that are bringing that Pennsylvania perspective just from the water quality side, but also you got the Ag Advisory Committee that's playing a role, and Bill Fink and others that are doing some great work in advocacy in the other sort of environmental issues surrounding the Bay watershed. So I think we're very strong, and I don't, you talk about the Bay being a national treasure. I don't know any other large watershed around the country that has this many partners and this many people talking about the same issue in the way that we all do, and can really pull things together that I've seen in my career. So that's kudos to the coalition and all of our, community groups that are out there working in the best interest of their own backyard and headwaters and downstream areas in the Bay. So, I don't think we can thank you enough for that. And, Sarah's doing a great job now being voted in as vice chair, and that didn't take long. And that wasn't a hard decision to make, for her to do that with the advisory committee. So we're really happy to see her in that position too, because she's been great, as has all the other staff that the coalition, puts forth to do the work around the Bay. So maybe could we just do a little quick recap maybe on what happened on the Hill Day or down at the Capitol from earlier this year? Because I know I couldn't make it down this year, and that hurt. But I had to be somewhere else. But Mike and our colleague Frank here had come down. What was the feel of the few days you were down there?
I know we missed you, Bobby. This was like the 1 year that you weren't able to come, but we were very happy you were able to send some other folks down. So Chesapeake Bay Day on Capitol Hill is our annual lobby day. So it's typically the first Wednesday of March. We have to make sure they're in session, but they've luckily been in session pretty much every time that we pick that date. So yeah, it's just a really great opportunity for our coalition members from across the watershed. So we have folks come all the way down from New York, all the way in West Virginia and Delaware, and the far reaches of Virginia, up to DC to meet with their members of Congress. We typically get meetings with almost every office. it's not unusual to have us have a touch point with every office while we're there. So we have 40, I think it's 46 now, or 48. Peter's gonna be mad at me if I don't remember, but something like that keeps changing. I need to stop doing things. And we typically get to meet with everybody, which is really great, whether it's staff or the actual member of Congress. We typically do get them, the member actually in the meeting, which is really great. I think is a testament to sort of that approach of, bringing folks from these jurisdictions into these meetings. And so, we had a really great turnout as well for our lunch. Packed room. I think overall, we had about 90 or so coalition members come to have meetings. We had over 100 people in the room for lunch. I believe we ended up with like 12 or 13 members of Congress that came to speak. The entire Maryland delegation, save for one or two, were there. Which was really great. And we've had, Pennsylvania members come before. GT Thompson has come several times and spoken at our lunch in the past, and usually pops into those in-person meetings that we have in his office. And I think continuing to be able to bring folks who are on the ground doing the work with the funding that we're advocating for, to meet with their members to say, this is why this money is important. Let me talk to you about the project and the economic impact it's having in your district. It's just being able to tell that story is just hugely impactful. And I think it's a really big part of the reason why we've been so successful. I think when the coalition started in 2009, I think funding was around 60 to 70, somewhere in there, $1 million. We're at $93 million as of this past appropriations bill. And that doesn't include the additional money we had from IIJA for the past 5 years. So, it's just an incredible approach. And I think for a lot of folks, it's a long day, but it's kind of rejuvenating in some ways to sort of hear how supportive these member offices are in a very bipartisan way. We have a lot of Democrats, a lot of Republicans who are very supportive of this work. And so I think it can just be helpful for folks to sort of hear that as well when they're in these meetings.
Yeah. So cool to hear about things that are actually going on in DC. I haven't been to DC to visit legislators since February of 2020. And we all know what happened in March. So, I miss it, but I cannot imagine how much work it is to organize something like that with so many people attending. I know how difficult it was when I would just have like 11 meetings or something and it'd be like 5 or 6 people to organize. So really congratulations on having successful Hill days like that. It's a lot of work. So Whipcammer, being from Western Pennsylvania, we have only a very small portion of our service area in the Chesapeake Bay. The majority of it is in the Ohio River Basin. So for anyone who's listening from the Whipcammer service region, just wondering if you have, any advice, for our watershed groups out here.
Yeah, absolutely. The work, as Bobby was saying, so like the work in the Chesapeake is a little unique, I would say, to a lot of the other, even like Great Water geographic programs in the country. Given that we have the TMDL, we have this Chesapeake Bay program that EPA leads in Annapolis that's sort of coordinating federal and state work. But I think as far as like what the coalition is doing, we ourselves are modeled after other coalitions in the country who had done this, really successfully. So we were built to sort of mimic the Healing Our Waters Coalition out in the Great Lakes. Same sort of approach and structure. We have, some differences, but overall is this idea that, when we work together, despite, maybe differences or priorities or anything like that, if we can come together and coalesce around like one common thing, and agree like that we both want this, we're going to be stronger and we're going to be more successful. So, we have our sister coalition, Healing Our Waters. We also have a sister coalition, the Coalition for the Delaware River, who obviously works on the Delaware River in that part of Pennsylvania in that watershed. And then we also have the Ohio River watershed that's being set up right now, the Healthy Rivers Coalition, I believe. And all of us are also hosted by the National Wildlife Federation. And so we are all very much connected to one another. We talk to one another and collaborate, even across our regions and our watersheds, especially when it comes to some of the federal work. So, so for folks that, aren't working in the Chesapeake and aren't, connected into what Choose Clean Water is doing, I highly suggest sort of thinking about what infrastructure is in your region and in your watershed as far as other coalitions, and seeing if that's something that you all would be interested in getting engaged in. Again, it's just their whole design is to be able to build the capacity of their members to participate. And so if it's something that you guys are interested in getting more involved in, those are really great opportunities. And I think, starting with some of these water coalitions that I just named off are some, a really great start. But there's local coalitions, there's regional coalitions too. And so I think finding ways that we can kind of harness our power together, especially, nowadays, where resources are short, capacity is low because there's so much, going on. The more that we can kind of work together, I think the more successful we're going to be.
Yeah, and even our coalitions, both EPCAMR and WIPCAMR, founded on the backs of conservation districts and community watershed groups, and even the coal industry for that matter, and cogen plants across Pennsylvania. That's sort of where we've risen from and have maintained that, for quite some time here. And WIPCAMR's even been around a lot longer than EPCAMR for that matter, and helped us get organized back nearly 30 years ago. So, the efforts of groups and people all across the watersheds that we live in, work, and play in are, to be commended for just talking about local issues and trying to get and find ways to really improve the quality of life for their families and their friends and, neighbors, pretty much in the name of clean water, because water is something that kind of interconnects all of us, I think. So I think these coalitions are strong when we have more groups being able to work the way we have seen it done through the Choose Clean Water Coalition. So it's been pretty amazing. So, you just had your annual conference we talked about earlier today in the conversation in May, and I'm wondering, I don't want to steal the thunder because it was an amazing day for me for the few days that we were down there, and there was a lot going on. But for you, I know you had to feel really great with the outcomes of the conference, and I have lots of great things to say about it, of course. But however, I'd like to get your take on what you saw happen down there, and just the momentum and the feeling you might have got from the activities and the interactions and just presentations and tours throughout the few days in Lancaster, PA.
I think you got it, Lancaster.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, this is the third time the coalition has brought the conference to Lancaster, and it's just a great spot. There's a lot of different issues to highlight. Obviously, agriculture is something that we're easily able to highlight being in Lancaster, but also public access, even urban stormwater projects in downtown Lancaster and things like that. So I always love going to Lancaster. And we had almost 300 people. I think we had like 270 some folks before we had to sell out. That's right. There's a kiss in Lancaster. And so just like this, again, like a really great opportunity to sort of get face to face with people and have that opportunity to knowledge share and educate on what's happening. It's always great to see like presenters that are not, from the home state either. Willing to travel up and wanting to sort of share what's going on where they live. And because, while there are unique situations, a lot of what we're facing is not unique. It's just, there might be some specifics that are a little different, but there are things that can be applied in one area of the watershed to another. And so I think that's what we always hear from this opportunity, is just like that networking opportunity, and that, like that's something that I could try, when I get back home. And so that's always a really great piece about the conference. And obviously we have our reception, which is just an awesome time for, I think, folks to celebrate. Obviously we celebrated Bobby as our clean water champion this year, and wanting to recognize his great work, and obviously the anniversary of EPCAMR as well. So we were just really happy about the timing of all of that and being able to celebrate you. And then obviously John Dawes Senior as well, and just knowing, his passion and investment in you all and your work too. I think it was like the perfect pairing to be able to celebrate both of you and everything that you guys have done for clean water and for Pennsylvania. And then obviously the Chesapeake more broadly. So yeah, that's always good. And I think, the way that we look at our reception, our members work really hard. Our partners work really hard. Everybody who, is working in this movement I think deserves to just celebrate and have some fun. And so, we have food, we have music, we have awards, and just an opportunity for people to really just like relax and, enjoy themselves and kind of give themselves a little pat on the back for everything that they're doing. So yeah, it's always, again, similar to the Hill Day, this is a couple of days, so it's a long couple of days wherever we are for it. But in the end, I feel like it is an opportunity for us to sort of recharge in other ways with our coalition members. So
yeah, they got to take home some tie-dye T-shirts and also some bandanas that were donated from the coalition. So we all had fun that evening, even though we had a little bit of rain earlier during the reception. But towards the evening, it turned out to be pretty well. And right through the darkness, I had people out there making tie-dyes and, using their flashlights on their phones to see how they turned out. But I was like, just save it for tomorrow and take a look at it, because it was kind of funny, because the Lancaster facility didn't want us to bring any tie-dye like at the manor, on the grounds, or in the hotel. And Amy and I were like, and Drew, like, you got to bag it up in a garbage bag. You can't let them take it. Some of them were sneaking them out in purses. I mean, they're bandanas. They're like this big, but maybe they thought they was like RIT dye and they were going to get dye all over the floors or something like that. So I ended up taking a big bag back with me to the hotel. And I don't know if I told you this, Kristin, but I got to the parking lot. It was like 10:30 by the time I got home that night, and the elevator was down. So I had to walk out from the back of the parking lot all the way to the front street, and I just kind of looked like a homeless person at 10:30 with a bag going into the front of the hotel.
You were Santa. You're practicing for Santa.
True. Yes. Yeah, I was. It was a big contractor bag full of tie-dye bandanas and T-shirts that I brought back for them to pick up the next morning. So it was kind of funny, and they were all like hermetically sealed in Ziploc bags. So it was really fun. It was a fun evening. So and to be, like you said, to be honored with John Dawes for the work that the Foundation for PA Watersheds, to what John's done, and not just me. I mean, it's our coalition, it's my staff that do the behind the scenes work, like Mike and everybody else. I mean, they're the ones that really make things work. I just happen to be the social butterfly, I guess. Likes to be everywhere, much like all of you. So this is who we are. But it was great, and you had a great conference. So really, really happy to have made it down there this year again. So,
Bobby, I'm not sure how I missed it, but I didn't see any photos of you getting this award.
They're on the social media on our Facebook page for EPCAMR. And I don't know if Kristin's putting out a press release or anything for the conference or not, but maybe they have something coming.
Yeah, I think Drew did. I can have him send it to me. I think
Okay.
it might be on our website. I usually post them on our website too.
Yeah, I didn't
So
see anything.
I've
just
been to
yet.
your conference, as Bobby mentioned. We presented together. I think it was last year or the year before,
2
but
years, yeah.
2 years ago. How many do you normally get, and what's your composition with other watershed like nonprofit groups?
Yeah, so I would say the majorities, we usually get anywhere between like I think it's like 250 to 300, sort of depending where we are. It's been on the higher end the past couple of years, and we've honestly had to sell out the past couple of times, including this time. It just depends on what our location will hold. And so so it's really great. I think the majority of attendees are coalition members or other nonprofit entities, but we get a really good group of other stakeholders, whether those are for-profit implementer type groups. A lot of state and federal agency folks tend to come, whether they're presenting or just coming to listen. Some of them will lead field trips and things like that, which is really great. So yeah, it's like and a lot of funders as well, coming to listen and hear about some of the great work that's happening as well. So yeah, it's really good cross section, I would say, of folks. And again, wherever we're hosting, usually we have a majority of people from that area that are are in attendance. We had a lot of Pennsylvania folks this year. But we'll be in Maryland. We rotate between Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia each year. So we'll be heading to Maryland next year, and we'll actually be heading to the Eastern Shore. We'll be in Cambridge, Maryland. For the first time, we'll be on the Eastern Shore for the conference. So that's a kind of exciting opportunity for us. And we'll definitely get us to see some different things that we've never seen before at our conference. I think a lot of aquaculture and things like that will be on the table for presentations and field trips. And yeah, that's kind of the other cool thing is like wherever we're going, that place usually has a unique story to sort of tell us too.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's very lovely. It's a lovely conference, and I'm glad Pennsylvania watershed groups are well represented.
Yes.
And so, I mean, along those same lines, how else can nonprofit watershed groups get involved with Choose Clean Water Coalition, and what other resources do you offer?
Yeah, so like I said, anyone who is a nonprofit entity is free to join. So doesn't matter how big you're part of your work in our watershed. So Wet Hammer, if you would like to join the coalition, putting it out there, more than welcome to come and join us. And yeah, like, we try to keep it as low barrier to entry as possible, with the understanding that our coalition members are very busy. They're doing the really important hard work on the ground in these communities across the watershed. And so we just want to make sure that they know that we're here and that, we're a resource, whether it's because they want to learn about something or they need help with something, or they want to get more engaged. And so, we're definitely open to anyone who's interested. We also provide sometimes like capacity training, so more formal training. So we have a communications training series happening right now for our coalition members. It's like a 10-month long series with some formal trainings with Spitfire, a consultant that we've hired. And then we'll be doing some trainings with coalition staff and our members. And it's really all about how we can be better at telling our stories as nonprofit organizations, and some tips and tricks on how to tell that compelling story, whether that's to get someone to action or to donate. So things like that. We also have a program called the Young Professionals of the Chesapeake. And so that program is in its 10th year this year. It's a mentorship program where we pair young professionals either in college or, entering into or in the early years of their environmental career with someone who has, been in the career for a while. And a big part of this is really about retention of talent in our community. And so we know that in the environmental movement, there tends to be a leaking of talent, especially from people who are, not traditionally thought of as someone working in the environmental movement. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting our members and also that next generation of leaders that we're going to need, because this work is not going to be ending anytime soon. So yeah, it's a year-long mentorship program that's comprised of a bunch of virtual trainings. There's 8 virtual trainings this year, and then one-on-one mentorship opportunities. We also try to do an in-person training opportunity, which we do have this year for them, which is really great. And I've been a mentor a few times in the program, and it's super rewarding on my end. I learn a lot being a mentor, but our mentees tend to walk away with more resources and more skills on how to they can navigate their workplace, and hopefully stay in contact with their mentor even post the mentorship ending. And a lot of the time we see mentees end up becoming mentors in the program and staying for the continuing through the program in that way. So yeah, so we have things like that too, that we are free. We provide those to our coalition members free of service, just in the hopes that we can continue to build their capacity in a variety of ways.
Great. Great. Well, I know we're sort of getting to the end here, and we want to thank you for joining us here over the lunch hour here. And I think both Ann and I would say we welcome you to become an outdoor cat if you want to venture up into the coal fields with us and see some orange water. Would definitely play host and get you out there, and maybe you'll become an orange tabby. I don't know.
I love it.
Regions. So we welcome you to the area to see some of our stuff that's going on. And our statewide conference is going to be in the Grantville area this year on October 20th to 22nd, just outside of Harrisburg. And we'll be touring some of the southern anthracite coal fields, but it's going to be in the Schuylkill Watershed in the Delaware. So, but you'll still be able to see a lot of AMD. We'll maybe drive through some parts of the Susquehanna as you're coming north. So we would like maybe to invite you to join us. And I don't know, it's maybe if just closing in, if you want me to close, we really want to thank you for joining us today. We're pretty thankful to have you as a friend and partner in Abandoned Mine Reclamation. And we want everybody to kind of tune in on the first Friday of every month from 12 noon for new episodes of the Abandoned Mine Reclamation Chronicles. We have some interesting guests, lined up here for the future towards the closeout of the first season here. And want to mark your calendars for Friday, July 3rd at 12 noon, as we're going to interview some other friends of ours, Eric Oliver from the Green Forest Works, and Tom Gilbert, the president of the Pennsylvania Environmental Council, who'll be talking about some efforts to reforest abandoned mine lands using the forest reclamation approach, and who their partners are and what projects they're working on, both throughout the watershed here in the Chesapeake Bay, that not enough of those reclamation projects get credit for reforestation and riparian restoration in the Bay Plan, and we'd like to see that happen more, and some other work that they're doing across the Commonwealth. So join us if you can next month before the 4th of July weekend. And thank you for being with us today.
Yeah. Any words of advice for our groups?
It's so I always say this, and Bobby was at the conference. Everyone always makes fun of me because I always quote sports movies when it comes to motivational things. I grew up in a sports family playing sports. And one of my favorite movies is Remember the Titans. I always go to Remember the Titans when I need a nice solid quote on leadership and teams. And, when it comes to capacity and sustainability, I think a big part of it is making sure that we are taking care of ourselves, and that, burnout and other things are really real. And I'm always mindful that what I do, my staff see, my coalition members see, you're setting an example. And so there's this quote from Remember the Titans that's always about attitude reflecting leadership. And so often when I'm like feeling a certain way, or my attitude is a certain way, I notice like my team might be feeling a certain way as well. And so it's always like a good opportunity for me to sort of check myself and check my team, and adjust so that I can be that that better leader. And so I always just have that in the back of my mind. Attitude reflects leadership. So the attitude of my team reflects my leadership. And so just making sure that you're setting that example to your staff about how important it is. This work is really hard. It's challenging. It can be draining. And so to make sure that, we're setting that example, that we need to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves first and foremost.
Yeah, take care of yourselves before you can take care of others and your environment. So yeah, thank you. That's really beautiful. All right.
Well, thank you, Kristin,
Yeah.
and we will catch up with you. I hope you have a good weekend.
Yeah, you guys too. Enjoy. I hope you guys have the good weather that we're having too. So
Yeah, we are. We definitely are. So,
awesome.
okay, take care.
Right.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.